Our movie begins with the Collins family, which transports him from Liverpool City to another city in England, and what had engaged them in the fish connection, and their trade increased greatly, and they became one of the richest families in England and built a large mansion under their name. Barnabas always told his son, Collins, that no matter how much money he had, the most important thing is for him to dedicate a large part of his time to the family, because family is more important than money. Barnabas builds a relationship with Angelique, the maid of the mansion who was originally a witch, and one day, she confesses Angelique to Barnabas. But why does he love her? But he responds that their relationship is not something he thinks about in terms of love. What she's talking about, of course, this annoys Angelique. So she kills his father and mother, and Barnabas continues to search for the reason behind his parents' deaths. But when he doesn't arrive, he decides to learn from the books of black magic to be able to use them to reveal the truth about their deaths. And Barna loves a girl named Josette, so he calls him to the palace, and they confess their love for each other. And when she hears this, Angelique gets annoyed and enraged, casts a spell on Joseph, and makes her throw herself off the tower. And when Barnabas sees her, he throws himself after it, but he doesn't die. And that's because Angelique, she turned him into a vampire, so that he wouldn't die, and could live all in torment life. After that, Angelique informs the whole village that Barnabas is a wicked sorcerer, and this makes the villagers gather together. Led by Angelique, they go to the mansion and tie him up, and they also put him in his coffin, wrapping chains around it, and bury him. The forest, and many years pass. Then we see a girl named Victoria, who is heading to the palace. After she saw an ad in the newspaper saying they needed a maid for the mansion, Victoria is not her real name. And that is just a name she made for herself after she saw it written on a board in the train, and that is because she is running away from her family. Victoria arrives at the mansion, and the doorman meets her and introduces her to everything in the mansion, revealing that the mansion is quite large, organized, and due to the lack of workers in it, Victoria Manuel learns that all those working in the mansion are. Among them, there are 7, including Will and Mrs. Johnson, and the rest are all workers, and Johnson takes her to meet a lady. The first mansion, Elizabeth Collins, responsible for taking care of her family and the mansion's affairs, sits and asks her a few questions until she agrees to be hired in the palace. Then the family gathers for lunch, which includes Elizabeth's brother, and he is unemployed and of no use, and David's son, who is mentally ill after his mother's death, is 5 years old, and she says the rest of the family that he always sees his mother's ghost in front of him, and Caroline, Elizabeth's daughter, in the teenage very stubborn stage because she not listening to also Dr. Julia, who is responsible for treating David, Roger's son, but she doesn't seem to be focused on her work because in her mind, the glass and the cigarette all day and at night, Victoria goes to sleep, but she sees the ghost of Jose in front of her in the hallway, and this ghost keeps saying just one word: "He's coming. He's coming." And he continues. The ghost flies around the chandelier while repeating this sentence. Then he falls victim to the same incident he had on the mountain long ago, at the time when the inspection team is. They conduct explorations in the forest and find Barnes' coffin, and unfortunately for them, they open the coffin, and it comes out Barnabas. But how did the arrow turn up? But he was very hungry after this period, so he apologizes to the workers and feeds on their blood. Then he goes to the village and wonders about the residents' clothing and the technological development that happened, and he continues to explore the place until he reaches the palace. Magic to allow Willie to let him in, and he begins to explore the mansion until he meets Elizabeth, and he tries to convince her that their first ancestor, but Elizabeth thinks he is a con man until she takes him, and he opens a secret door in the palace filled with treasures, and which she didn't know anything about, and he promises her that he will restore the family's glory again. So Elizabeth agrees for him to join, but on the condition that he does not tell anyone that he is a sorcerer or a vampire. The next day, the whole family gathers and a war breaks out in the family over Barn. But you don't say that he is their first ancestor, and you tell them that he is a distant relative of ours, and he had traveled abroad and returned at that time. Victoria enters on them. So Barnabas looks at her with admiration because of her great resemblance to Josie, and Barnabas asks only about their fish business. So Elizabeth tells him that the family lost it a long time ago due to the deal to another big company afterward. We see Angelique again, and her life shows signs of wealth and luxury, and we learn that she is the owner of the company that made the deal that destroyed the Collins family's business, and Angelique hears about the incident from her employees. the forest of the coffin. So she goes to insure herself, and is shocked when she finds the coffin open. So she quickly goes to the Collins family palace, and she meets Elizabeth and talks to her until Barn comes out and meets Angelique. At that moment she asks from Elizabeth that they are alone for a bit, and Angelique continues to talk about her control over the city residents, who now consider her their only savior
Barnabas
from evil, the wicked, and she tells him that she bought their company, and congratulates him on his return and leaves. Elizabeth's story with Angelique and his lover Joseph, and that Angelique exploited his weakness after Jose's death, turning on him to seize everything, and that he must restore the family legacy again and defeat Angelique. The first thing he does, but he starts selling the treasures in the secret room, and hires new workers to renovate the palace, and also, he opens a new fish company under the Collins family name, which begins to thrive day by day, until he manages to take everything, the fishermen and workers from Angelique's company, and there is Ferna, always wearing sunglasses and a hat with an umbrella, so he wouldn't be exposed to sunlight at all, because sunlight harms vampires, and Barn spends his day between the company and the home, and he spends some time with Victoria until one day she sees Dr. Julia as he comes out with a treasure in his hand. So she goes after him to his room and starts talking to him and puts him into a hypnotic sleep, and Barnabas confesses to her the secret. This makes Julia rush to her colleague just to scold her. Why is she hiding from them? Barnabas' secret. Don't tell anyone until they exploit the magic power that Barn has, because the family is now starting to regain its glory. The next day, Barnabas goes to Caroline and asks her about the way he can, through which he wins the heart of a girl. So he tells her that from her point of view, girls love the cool guy, not the one who is still nerdy, an old one, and advises him to go out with cool young people. And indeed he listens to her and goes out with Barnabas and hangs out with young people from the village while they laugh and drugs and drink alcohol. Barnabas asks them that he likes a girl and wants to confess to her, and the young people start giving him advice that suits their age. After Barnabas receives advice from them, he tells them a safe path about the information. But I'm sorry I have to tell you, because you made me hungry feeding on their blood. Dr. Julia to start a blood transfusion session for a human. Why? So he can get rid of being cursed. With the vampire curse, Angelique is very annoyed by Barn's success and is angry at him. So she decides to confront him, and she offers to buy the company from him, but he refuses. So she tells him that she doesn't want anything from the world except for his love, and she asks him to work with her, or he will die for Victoria. So Barn has to agree because he is afraid for Victoria. But then he regrets what he did very much and returns to the palace again. And that night, Victoria dreams of Josie, and Josie asks her in the dream to help her. And at the same time, they are gathering. Barn tells the family that they need to throw a very big party to prove to the city and the whole village that they returned as a prestigious family again, and Caroline advises them on how to throw a big party. And she cannot believe that she heard to get a famous band to perform for the party. And since Barnabas does not like loud sounds, he goes for a walk from the house. At that moment he sees David standing guarding the guest's dressing room instead of the worker. So he asks him why he is standing here. He was the one who asked him to do that. His father, and told him not to let anyone in. So Barnabas controls David's mind, the room, and makes him leave the guard, and discovers that he is in a relationship with a staff member. And they both steal the wallets from the guest's clothes. He goes out to the balcony when he sees Victoria alone, and they start talking to each other. And Victoria loves him, but she is not sure of Barnabas's feelings for her until he confesses to her, "I love her." At that time, Victoria begins to tell him her real story and says that she was locked in an asylum long ago. That's because the ghost of the spouse was always haunting her, and because her family didn't believe her words. So they placed her in a mental institution, and she was escaping from that mental hospital with the help of Josette. And at that time, she doesn't know where to go. So the ghost points to her Josie at the top of the palace, and the recruitment advertisement found in the journal. And that's why she decided to come to the palace. At that time, Angelique is standing and hearing all their words, and gets very upset when they confess their love for each other. So she decides to take revenge on them. Then Barnabas goes to Julia to ask her to increase the therapy sessions. But he discovers that Julia, the truth is, she didn't treat him, but she was transferring her blood to him, so he could become a vampire and live forever. This makes Barnabas only get angry with her and suck her blood to kill her. Then she puts it in, and he chains her up and throws her into the sea. And Barn sees, but Roger, while trying to steal from the treasures, then gives them two options. either stay in the palace and care for his son. Why is that good? Be a father. Either he takes the money and leaves and doesn't show up at the palace again. So Roger chooses to take the money, and he walks away. And that makes him depressed because his father sold him for money. At the time Barnabas returns, the workers are removing the disco ball that was about to fall on David. So Barn saves him. And after he saves him, he is standing there not aware that sunlight is on him. At that moment, he begins to burn, and the family understands his secret. So they all fear him and flee. And Barnabas is saddened and goes to Angelique, asking her to lift the curse upon him. But she refuses and offers him two offers. First, he confesses that he killed Julia, and she frees him from the curse. Barnabas confesses that he killed her. Then she offers him a deal that they share the fish market and dominate the whole market together and live together. But he refuses, and Angelique has set a trap for him. And as soon as he opens the office door, he is surprised by the workers preparing the coffin, and he plans for them to bury the coffin again. But first Angelique goes to the Collins company and uses her powers to burn the entire company. Then they take him and go to the graves and bury him there. But David goes to the coffin after he found its location. The coffin from his mother's ghost saves Barnabas, and the whole town's residents are watching as the police investigate the company fire. At that time, Angelique plays the audio recording of Barnabas as he confesses that he killed Julia and did so to make everyone. People hate him and hate the Collins family, and they gather and go to attack the palace again. And when they arrive, he comes out from the palace and tells them that he will confess everything to them. But they guarantee the safety of his family, and also arrest Angelique, and suddenly attacks Angelique to drink her blood. At that moment her skin begins to crack, and her life appears to people. So the police drive people away from the place, and a big battle takes place between Barnabas and his family. The gun she has to try to get rid of Angelique she uses. We also discover that Caroline is a werewolf and attacks Angelique with them, but they can't take her down, especially after she turned the palace statues into monsters to help her and attack them. At that moment Angelique starts to confess that she is also the one who killed David's mother. She is the one who made the wolf by Caroline and turned her into a werewolf, suffering. And we Collins' family was entirely because of Angelique, who still remains victorious to this day, and she is the one controlling the family until David comes and makes his mother's ghost attack Angelique, pushing her and hanging her on the chandelier, and the chandelier falls on her, and it burns the whole mansion. So the whole family exits the palace, except for Barnabas, and that enters Angelique to say goodbye to her. So Angelique takes her heart and gives it to him, but he turns to ash and melts. And that's because it was a one-sided love, and Barn comes out and checks on his family, but does not find Victoria, and he learns that she went to the mountain to commit suicide and throw herself. So he quickly goes to catch up with her, Victoria, she is the daughter of light. But he is the son of darkness and can't exist in the light because sunlight can destroy him. Therefore, it wouldn't be right for them to live together. And she throws herself off the mountain. And the same scene repeats with Josette dying. But this time Barn catches her and drinks her blood while they are in the air to turn her into a vampire so she doesn't die. And they can both. They live together forever, and our movie ends. Don't forget to like the video and follow the page on Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube channel that you will find.